Good afternoon. We're so glad to have you all here this afternoon for our last set of workshops. We're particularly pleased to have Betty Trevino-Roth back with us to talk about Shakespeare. And of course, Rosanna Ivanovova will talk at the very end about how we're doing with endowment for the Shakespeare competition. Without further ado, Betty, it's all yours.
Julia, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here and for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today about these wonderful programs. And of course, thank you all for everything that you do for our students, for our teachers, for our organization. Without you, none of this, nothing would be possible. And we are always so very grateful to you all. If I may, I will now share my screen so that I can share my PowerPoint with you. If you'll bear with me just one moment. Josh makes this look seamless, but I'm not quite that good at it. So for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting or working with, my name is Betty Trevino-Roth, and I'm the Education Programs Director for Shakespeare Performance and Writing Programs. And today I'm honored to be here and to speak to you all about the 39th ESU National Shakespeare Competition and the first ever ESU National Shakespeare Writing Program. So to start, if we may, let's talk a little bit about last year's Shakespeare competition, just a brief wrap up. 2021 was the beginning of our second century as we celebrate our next 100 years. And in response to COVID, we had to pivot yet again and go with an all-digital competition. But we felt it was really important to give our students, our teachers, and of course our branches more of a response and more opportunities to interact with each other and basically to make it an even better competition than it had been the year before. So for that reason, we expanded our Teachers Recognition Award. In 2020, we inaugurated that award, but it was only for the first place teacher. In 2021, it was expanded to cover first, second, and third place. Our People's Choice Award, again inaugurated in 2020, is now an even bigger success. It helped us reach 16,000 people from across the United States and the globe, as far away as Saudi Arabia and China. Our commemorative yearbook, now in its second year, is 25% bigger, and we've included a section where our branches can reach out to their champions. This year, we had more prizes for our branch champions and for our finalists because we felt it was important that it wasn't enough that we didn't just cancel the competition. It wasn't enough that we went forward. We had to go forward, but be bigger and better, because that's just how the ESU does things. And now, on to 2022. So the tentative date of our competition is April 22nd. And really, the most important thing for us is planning a safe and healthy competition for all of our students. And as you can all imagine, there are some very complicated logistics at play because we have to plan for the unforeseeable. At the same time, there's an urgency to plan. The decisions we make in September will affect the competition that we hold in April. And unfortunately, COVID is still a part of our reality. With the resurgent and this new variant that is affecting youth nationwide, decisions had to be made to make sure that the competition was not only of academic merit, as it has always been, but also safe for our students. Some of the other realities that we have to contend with are, besides student safety, our parental fears, government restrictions, municipal restrictions, the fact that our schools are struggling, the fact that many vendors and venues no longer exist. Our traditional structure of bringing all 50 kids to New York City, unfortunately, increased the health risk and increased our financial liability. So what to do in this situation? For that reason, we've come up with, for 2022, with the help of our educational committee, a hybrid competition structure with COVID-safe finals in New York. So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. So all our branch champions will compete in a semifinals via recorded performance as they did in 2020 and in 2021. Only our top 10 finalists will travel to New York City under COVID safe conditions. All our attendees, unfortunately, have to be vaccinated. That's just the rules here in New York City. That's not something that we're demanding, but it's in order to be able to access venues and transportation options. In terms of finances for our branches, there is a new structure for that as well. So participating branches are paying a $150 initial fee. This is a vast reduction to our normal fee. And this is, of course, made possible, and Rosanna will speak more about this later, by our endowment. That was part of the Centennial fundraising campaign. Only those branches whose champions advance to the finals will pay the remaining $450 of the $600 annual fee. Now, mind you, all of this is provided that conditions allow by January of 2022. We desperately want to go back to a live competition, but at the forefront of all decisions always has to be student safety. So let's talk a little bit about what this COVID safe finals in New York is going to look like. We're planning a spectacular weekend for our champions. To begin, instead of staying at a hostel where we can't control exposure, each student will have a private room at a 4-star hotel. For the first time ever, the ESU is inviting a parent to stay with each student at our expense. We want to give our students an enhanced experience, better trips, better meals, better shows, more things to do, more exclusive experiences. It's come to our attention, thanks to many of our branch coordinators, that sometimes this trip to New York City is a child's only experience of New York City, and it's up to us to make it as special and as safe as possible. The best part is this gives us the ability to extend the weekend. Our last live competition was in 2019, and it was only 2 days. The kids flew in on Sunday, competed on Monday, went home on Tuesday morning. Now we can fly them in on Saturday, have events for them all day Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and then they go home on Tuesday. And the best part is that all those excursions and trips and fun things that we do with them, we now have the possibility of including their parents in this. Again, all parents and students must show proof of vaccination as required in New York City. And this is all dependent on conditions allowing by January. So what would our schedule look like in this hybrid competition? Let's say our students arrive on Saturday, they check in at the ESU. We can do a dinner for them, either at the ESU or at a restaurant, and then off to some fun event, perhaps a guided tour, a cruise around New York City for the finalists and perhaps their parents. From there, we would bring them back to the hotel where everyone can check in and relax for the evening. On Sunday, we'll gather up all our students and the activities begin. We'll start perhaps with an exclusive workshop or some other learning opportunity. Usually we would do a workshop either with our friends at BADA or maybe something at NYU Tisch School of the Arts. Then ESU staff and the students will have lunch at a theater district restaurant, and hopefully to follow a show and an exclusive experience, perhaps a backstage tour. I'm still working on all the details. Finally, after that matinee theater performance, they have the evening free or they can have dinner with us. On Monday, all the students will arrive at the venue and we can observe any COVID policies in place at the time, meaning social distancing, or if there's a limit to how many people can be in the room. We can begin the competition at noon. All the students can then attend a luncheon in their honor. It would be done by 4 o'clock, which gives the students the whole afternoon and evening to spend with their parents sightseeing in New York City for a full tourist experience. So, what are the pros and cons of this structure? What really works here is that it gives us until January of 2022 to decide. Everything in New York is competition and everything is limited, meaning theater tickets, hotels, the hostel, everything has to be booked months in advance. And because we don't know what COVID is going to do, it made it very, very difficult. And we ran the risk of having to cancel things. This is a manageable and executable plan. and it addresses all of COVID uncertainty. If in January we can't move forward, we're not looking at losing tens of thousands of dollars in deposits. It allays parental fears. As a parent myself, I know that I would have misgivings about sending my child to New York City in the middle of a pandemic, but if
Thank you.
I'm there, that's a very different experience.
Thank you.
For our branches will only pay for their winner, which means if your student does not advance to the finals, you're not paying the extra $450 fee. It's safer for our students, it's safer for their families, it's safer for staff, it lessens the liability of the ESU. We have a lower risk of exceeding potential group limits, reduce cancellation risks, and ultimately, having this flexibility allows us to plan a better experience for your branch champions. The one con, and it's a big one, we know that, is that not all branch winners will be able to come to New York City, but it is our sincere hope that everything will return to normal in 2023 and that we'll be able to go back to our normal competition structure then. So it always comes down to numbers, and we know that. And for that reason, I've prepared these comparative budgets for you. Here we have the different categories. And please note that these totals don't include personnel and overhead. This is really just about those parts of our budget that are going to change depending on the format for the finals. So in 2019, we had a traditional competition, and that event itself runs us about $80,000, give or take. In 2021, we went all digital, but we also increased the gifts and prize money that we gave out, which brought our budget to about $32,000. This proposed hybrid for 2022 is somewhere right in the middle, but you can see that while giving a live experience to at least some of our students, we're not breaking the bank to do it. We're looking at a budget of about $49,000, and most of that is going towards prizes and honoraria, which means we're taking the money that we are spending is being spent on creating an experience for your branch championships, for your branch champions, excuse me. And this is really all about providing the best possible value for our branches while providing the safest and best experience for our students. If I may, I'm going to skip ahead to now the Shakespeare writing program and introduce that, and that way we can do our questions at the end, if that's all right with everyone. With everyone, Julia, is that okay with you? Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes. So I'm very, very pleased to introduce to everyone the ESU National Shakespeare Writing Program. This is something that was requested and inspired by our branches, and really the intention here is that this writing competition, or this writing program rather, be part and parcel of the Shakespeare experience of the ESU. It's meant to not compete with our monologue and sonnet competition, but rather be a complement and an enhancement, so that now we'll have year-round programming. We keep the excitement going, we keep teachers and students engaged and connected to the ESU and our branches. The idea is that we want to expand beyond young performers. Not all students connect to the English language through performance. We have a lot of great writers out there, and we're giving them the opportunity to do that in a creative and an analytical way, but always with our focus back to Shakespeare. We're engaging for the first time ever students in special ed and English as a second language or English as a new language classes, as well as the general education and advanced students that we've always approached. We know that this program will work. And the reason that we know that is because we did a bit of beta testing last October, and we partnered with the Morgan Museum in New York City to have the Frankenstein writing competition, where we had expected somewhere in the neighborhood of 30, 40 submissions. We got well over 200. And they weren't just from the New York area, they were from across the United States. And it was really exciting to see that other organizations picked up on it and started promoting it as well. And among those organizations were the National English Honor Society and in Kansas City, Kansas, Shakespeare. One of the things that was really important to the success of that test, of that program, and also to now the Shakespeare writing program, is providing quality support to our teachers. If we provide our teachers with lesson plans and resources that are easy to incorporate into their existing curriculum, that make this a welcome addition to their already overloaded schedules, then we can count on more teacher buy-in. We got that last time from our partners at the Morgan, who had a whole slate of resources for teachers based on Frankenstein. This time, we've had custom-made resources made, lesson plans, exercises, and these were written by a TLAB alumna who went in 2019 and put together all of these strategies for teaching Shakespeare through performance, sonnet writing, uh, recognizing meter, and helped us create a package of resources for teachers to use in their classrooms. In terms of branch involvement, it's important for us to note that all of us in programming at National were given a mandate by Karen that any expenditure should be seen through the lens of branch service, of the well-being of the branches, branch growth, branch services. And this program is a part of that. We've created a program where we can, or rather the branches, can customize their involvement, either on a local or a regional basis. We're launching with 3 competitions, but that doesn't mean that in the future we're not going to have non-competitive events as well. But let's talk a little bit about the competitions themselves, and we'll touch back on those other issues as well. So to begin, we have the Modern Troubadour competition. This is a creative writing competition. Submissions will be allowed in multiple modalities because the competition is open to special education students, to middle schoolers, and also to students for whom English is not their primary language. And so students will be asked to write a sonnet inspired by Shakespeare, but at the same time do it in a modern way. So they will be troubadours of modern language with a connection to Shakespeare. The launch date will be now in October 2021, we hope. Our deadline should be somewhere around December, and the announcement will be January 15th of the winner. All dates, again, are tentative. For this program, because it's open to younger students, special ed students, and English as a second language students, there are additional resources being provided for teachers. Our second competition that we'll launch is called the I Am Shakespeare competition. This is creative writing, but it's creative writing with academic dimensions, with real rigor. It's open only to high school students, and it will require a student to demonstrate a profound connection and understanding of the Shakespearean sonnet. 14 lines, couplets, voltas. It inspires a connection, a visceral connection to Shakespeare, the way that our performance competition does, but this one is for writers. Ideally, this is going to launch around January 15th. The deadline will be sometime in March, and we'll make the announcement in April around the time of the monologue and sonnet competition. Finally, the Evelyn Wrench Shakespeare Essay Award. This is open only to high school students, and this is going to appeal to those students who prefer to express their love of the English language through literary analysis, and we are talking college level. This is a program that's going to be easily integrated into existing classes and existing AP programs. It's something that teachers of seniors and juniors can easily bring into their classroom, and students will be encouraged to submit work that they had already submitted for their classes. Launches around the competition The deadline would be at the end of the year, and it won't be announced until September. And that's purposeful because we want to keep that interest going throughout the summer. So, what are our goals? Why are we doing this writing program? It's something that the branches have asked for a very long time, but why now? Because now we know exactly what it is that we want to achieve here. Our goals are to ensure that our programs are of academic value to students, that they provide pedagogically sound resources for our communities of teachers, and we want to enrich the ESU Shakespeare community, specifically our branches and members. So, branch involvement, we talked about that earlier. What does it mean to suit the needs and capabilities of every branch? So, this year in 2022, after discussion with our regional reps, we decided to go with a national model. And that's how this looks. National will accept nationwide submissions. National will worry about all the paperwork. We'll do, as we like to call it, the heavy lifting, the forms and all the things that just aren't all that much fun to do. But we're well equipped to do it. So we'll accept nationwide submissions. National judges, we will find them, we will vet them, and those national judges will adjudicate for national prizes. Now, what did we mean by to suit a branch's needs? Well, individual branches will be able to opt in. We will then be able to pull out the submissions for a particular branch's students. And then we can provide those submissions to that branch, and that branch can opt to provide a prize, find judges of their own, and have a local competition with those same submissions. They can decide to have an event around it. The national winners, regardless of branch participation, will always be styled as representatives of their corresponding branches, regardless of branch participation, which is to say, if we had a branch in Maine, but Maine did not have the capability this year, for whatever reason, to take part in the writing competition, if that student from Maine were to win the national competition, they would be styled as the champion from Maine. The idea is to always, always promote membership in our branches, to always promote our branches, and to acknowledge that our students come from our branches. What does the future of the competition look like? Well, as I said, this year we're just rolling it out, but this is what we hope it looks like in the future. A full-on regional model with 2 levels of competition, just like our Shakespeare performance competition. In that case, national would accept nationwide submissions. The submissions would be divided by region. Branches within each region would volunteer judges. The submissions from each region would be sent via email to the regional judges, who would then select a regional winner. Prizes could be provided by the region if they so desired. But national would then pick from the 8 regional winners for national prizes. Individual branches could still opt in to receive their local submissions and provide additional prizes. Submissions from outside of areas of the branches, we would just call that ESU at large, but that's something that we can work out a little closer to the date. So that concludes the information part of this presentation, but I would be very, very glad to take any questions or comments from anyone watching.
I just want to say, Betty, that I think it's absolutely wonderful that there's this increased focus on branches. Everyone knows I'm very branch centered and always have been. And I think that this addresses a lot of the conversations we've had with branches across the country. So thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. As I said, Karen made it very clear and gave us a mandate this year that any expenditures or any new programs, everything had to be from a branch focus. And I think this serves that purpose because branches that maybe this year, for whatever reason, because of COVID or other reasons, or they're doing another program and can't opt in, that's fine. But if a branch really wanted to run with this, the potential is there. And again, it shouldn't take, we're not looking to create anything burdensome for our branches. Rather, it puts national in the position where it should be of supporting our branches and supporting our branches' efforts to do outreach to their communities.
I have several questions.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Dana,
I just see Dana. Hi, Dana. How are you?
fine, thank you. I have quite a number of questions.
Yes,
If I may
please.
just go through them one at a time, that's starting back with your first uh, talking about the National Shakespeare Competition. Um, you had mentioned that later on, you mentioned something about offering lesson plans and resources for teachers in the Shakespeare writing competition, I believe. But I wondered how many resources and lesson plans are offered to the teachers for the actual Shakespeare competition.
Oh, I'm very glad that you asked that. So we have always offered, as part of the monologue and sonnet competition, wonderful lesson plans that in fact were written by Sue Biondi from our Central Pennsylvania branch. And she is an absolute expert in pedagogy and in all things English teaching, and very kindly made those resources for us. In addition, last year we made a supplemental packet of resources for teachers who, for the first time, were teaching remotely. And so, another of our T-Lab scholars, we really believe in going back to that well and connecting with our community members. One of our scholarship winners from 2019 was tapped to make resources for us, things that she learned at the Globe, uh, and created a package of resources we called our Teacher Online Toolkit. And that way, teachers who had never taught remotely had not only the traditional lesson plans that Sue so graciously created, but now also some resources for teaching online. So
Right.
yes, absolutely. We make sure our teachers are covered in every program.
Right. I have another question regarding the plans for next year, should it be able to come about. Just a question about the finance page that you showed.
Sure.
You're estimating a much smaller figure for the entertainment. I know you're not going to be entertaining all of the branch winners, but if there are 10 finalists and 10 parents, that's 20 people. And $25,000 would barely cover the cost of a Broadway ticket for 20 people. So if that figure is also meant to include the other tours and lectures and things, I think we need to look at that figure and raise it some. I would hope you would be taking kids to a Broadway show.
We
Those
will.
things, and even with a group price for 20 people, that's easily 2,000 or more dollars at just
It
$100
is.
a ticket, which you can't get anymore. So that's a
Right.
figure I think should be reassessed. That's just my personal opinion about that.
You're absolutely right. And right now we're just doing sort of, it's kind
Ballpark.
of a ballpark figure because we're so far out yet, and we don't even know what's going to happen on Broadway. Trying to get estimates for ticket prices, it's really hard because the theaters, have barely just opened. We don't know what's going to be open and what isn't. But I can tell you this, we are very, very resourceful about finding partnerships and finding donors and
Mhm.
finding folks to help us.
Oh, great. Good.
So, we will make sure that our kids have a wonderful experience
Great.
in New York City for sure. I see Kate also. I'm sorry, Dana, were you done? I apologize.
No, I had three small questions about your second thing about the writing competition, if you don't mind, easily
No, no,
answered. Um,
sure.
the first one on the modern troubadour competition, because you spoke of it being for including everybody, including, and about uh, kids with English as a second language and everything, one does assume that they're going to be writing a sonnet in English, not in any other language.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
that's the point of it. The I Am a Shakespeare competition. Now, how will you judge that? That's a very complicated kind of thing to judge, it seems to me. Will it be judged on the kinds of words that are used? Who's going to make up the judging things for that particular part of the competition?
I am thrilled that you asked that because we have already anticipated that. Anytime you judge something creative, it's really hard to be objective. You've been a judge at the performance competition, so you understand the pitfalls of it. So we've created, with the help of an expert, a rubric that will give our judges a framework within which to work.
And also
Um,
the same kind of thing will be given to the students so they know what the
exactly.
requirements are. Okay,
Exactly.
great,
It's very important to spell out for students, as every educator here knows, the expectation.
great. Thank you. And the final question I had was about the essay award. You said they could use something they had already written if they wanted to submit that. So what will the point or mission of the essay award be? Will it have to be themed to Shakespeare, to the English
Yes.
language? I mean, what is the requirement around that?
So the essay award will have to be literary analysis of a work by William
Okay,
Shakespeare.
thank you. That's
They
answered.
will have the option of doing a sonnet, a play. They can choose one of our monologues and analyze that. And what we're trying to do is reach out to the AP teachers and the more advanced students who don't always have an outlet for
Mhm.
their brand of creativity. And we ask so much of our students, and all the former high school teachers here will tell you that, in junior and senior year, we put such an emphasis on analytical writing to get kids ready for college, but then there's nowhere where they can submit that work and get that really needed support and that attaboy.
Mhm.
I think it's an important thing to recognize that there is creativity in analytical academic writing.
Lovely, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Yes, Kate, hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you so much. I was gonna just, my comment that I put up there is that the branches could use assistance or getting the lists of English and drama teachers from each state. It is actually more difficult than you think to find that information, to get it to the right instructor. We're even finding that with the Shakespeare competition. You would think that there would be an easy database that we, being in the state, could get, but it's actually blocked more than you think, especially now during COVID and with all these things being online. So I know that sometimes you have a way of acquiring lists that we might not. And then with the writing competition, I would just like to say that, yes, you could send it to AP English teachers, but there are also creative writing teachers in most high schools that are of decent substance. And you also have a number of teachers and retired teachers that are members of our English speaking union who
Yes.
could serve as judges, or because we found that even to be with the poetry writing competition, if you remember, we were able to pull
Yeah.
from a nice group of volunteer teachers who are of note here within the branches. So you might want to find some other ways to use some of the ESU members because they're already on your roster and they are your volunteers and they make up a nice base of quite intelligent folks, as I have come to find out over the many years. So that's
Yes.
food for thought.
Oh, Kate, we are absolutely on the same page. And it's funny that you should say that because now when I harangue so many of our PhDs and retired teachers and retired professors and active professors, I'm going to tell them that you told me to call them. So
There are plenty of, in fact, you might
we have so
solicit,
many.
but you might solicit from the branch presidents if they have one or two
Absolutely.
candidates that they might recommend. I know on my board, I have quite a few extraordinary PhDs and, and
Yes.
national board certified teachers as well. So you might want to just spread the wealth and involve the membership because it's always, I think, good for us to acknowledge the great skills that exist within our English speaking union membership.
That's absolutely right. We are absolutely on the same page. And that is really the linchpin of any sort of movement that we have towards a regional structure. We're going to need all these brilliant people. And really part of what inspired me was being in our regional reps, I'm sorry, in our regional reps meeting and being in our education committee meeting. And there were so many PhDs, so many erudite people, just so many people so incredibly knowledgeable, and I'm thinking the ESU is just a think tank, and there's so many great things that we can do, and if we can just connect all our dots and have our branches working together, to that end I've started a group on Facebook for our Shakespeare coordinators, and I've sent invitations out to everyone, but everyone else is of course welcome. And the idea is that we have so much talent and just so many wonderful, brilliant people that are part of the ESU. That those of us who work for the ESU in education programming are crazy not to avail ourselves of that resource. So we are. I am right there with you.
But
I
getting
thank
those
you for the
lists,
comments.
getting those lists of the proper teachers would be very helpful.
That is something
Tricky.
that it's very tricky.
I know.
Here in New York State, they simply won't do it.
It's
They just
tricky in
won't
our
do it.
state as well. And so the
Yeah.
problem is most of our Shakespeare competitions, the numbers have dwindled, because if the person who was there as the theater teacher or the advanced English teacher is no longer on the roster, we don't know who that person is then. We have
That's
no way
right.
to contact them.
That's right. It's really hard, and part of the problem is that our education system in the United States is not even remotely homogenous. So there are different unions and different teacher organizations just all across uh, the United States. If in the past at national we've bought lists from NCTE and the National Council for Teachers of English,
Okay.
uh, and the problem is that they give you the school address, not an email. And so, as every teacher in this room can tell you, I was one too. When something paper gets mailed to a school, it never gets to the classroom. It ends up in the round file in the office, unfortunately. So, but it is something that we're going to work on. It is something that I think is, I run the New York competition, and I know I have the exact same problem finding teachers. You can't go back to the same well. You have to sort of expand the outreach, and it's hard. But I promise you, it is something that we're thinking about and is at the forefront of our mind. And I thank you for that. Was there Don? Hi, Don.
Hi, Betty. Good to see you.
Oh,
I
likewise.
appreciated the presentation you made. I was just wondering if you could send all your slides, so to speak, to me. Yeah, it's hard
Absolutely.
to absorb. I was sitting here making notes and all that, but I would love to have the set.
No problem at all. I'll ask Josh for the list of emails, and I will get it out to everyone. No problem at all. It's my pleasure.
That's great.
Absolutely. And Daniel, I'm sorry, I believe I saw you with your hand up as
Yeah,
well. Hi.
I just wanted to follow up on something you said, that so the ESU staff is developing this list of teachers then, as opposed to the branches.
So we want to help our branches develop these lists. The problem is this: when you're on the ground in your community, you have a better understanding of the challenges, not only the challenges, but how to gain access to those schools. We're in New York, and even having been a New York City teacher myself, I come up against terrible roadblocks trying to get teacher names, email addresses. A lot of email correspondence gets bounced back because there are firewalls. I definitely understand the challenge that our branches are facing in doing outreach to teachers, especially during COVID. Some of our branches had great success actually going out to schools, but we can't do that right now. So it's something that I want to help us and I want to help our branches do. At this moment, I don't have more resources than you do, and I'm ashamed to say that, but it is something that I'm aware of and that we want to help with. Right now, our branches remain, and always have been, and always will be, the ESU's greatest asset, because there's nothing in the world that National can do without having you folks there in your communities. Me calling from all the way in New York City, nobody cares about what I have to say, but someone who has roots in that community and who is grounded in that community, that's a powerful outreach tool, much more so than somebody calling from 1,000 miles away. But I am aware of the challenge, and I want to do everything that we can to help all our branches in terms of school outreach.
In the Kansas City area, it's not a privacy challenge. It is just incredibly labor intensive with turnover rates of teachers. You literally have to go school by school to their websites. You can find out who the AP English teacher is. But we're a very large geographic area with lots of schools. It's just, that's a very labor intensive job, and it's not those English teachers are not the source of our Shakespeare competition participants. Those have tended to be, even though we have tried to send emails to English teachers, those have tended to be drama teachers.
Drama
almost
teachers.
95%. And so this is a whole new database that we would be creating. At the same time, we're trying to update our current database, again, because of teacher changeover. So
Right.
you're looking for some help from us then.
Absolutely. Always. We always rely on our branches. You are literally the heart and soul of any educational program. We can't do this without you. And we know that. And we want to help, and we can do things like online marketing. We can do, and I mean, Laura can speak more to that, about the things that we do on social media. But here's the thing, and it's a very important point to get across, that in no way will the writing program, should it be in any way, burdensome on a branch. Quite the opposite. For the longest time, we've been trying to engage English teachers in the competition. And Daniel, like you just said, it's the theater teachers that respond. But if we have this writing program for English teachers, and then we can at the same time sell them on Shakespeare, think of how we're going to grow the Shakespeare competition. For at least here in New York City, for every 100 English teachers, there might be 1 or 2 theater teachers. So now imagine if we can tap into that using the writing competition and then start bringing kids over into performance. That would be fantastic. And all of our thinking is always very long view. Karen has provided us with leadership that makes us think in terms of 5 and 10 years from now, and how we're going to grow opportunities for our branches. And part of that is providing those educational initiatives that create a reason for teachers to want to get excited about us and want to join us. And teachers share resources. And the idea being that the writing program will support the performance program will support the writing program. And in that manner, growing our lists and our contacts of teachers. At least that's the plan. Julia?
Yes, one of the things that the regional reps were particularly interested in was ensuring that branches knew how we were doing in fundraising for the centennial campaigns, the two, the Evelyn Wrench and the Shakespeare competition. And we have about 7 minutes left in this event, and questions are great, so don't forget these questions. But I want to give Rosanna, if I may, a few moments to talk about how we're doing vis-a-vis the Shakespeare competition. This is all part of transparency, which is important to be. And so if you don't mind, could we just, for a few minutes anyway, give this over to Rosanna so she talks about the centennial fundraising.
Of course.
Hello. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Julia, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the fundraising, probably the less exciting part of the program, but still it's important because that's what makes the programs possible. If I may share my screen with you. Do you see the screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. So the annual Shakespeare competition here, yes. The Easy Centennial National Shakespeare Competition Endowment Fund. This is, for those who are not aware, this is our second big fundraising push in addition to the Wrench Endowment. The fund was established, again, the idea came from the branches and from branch leaders wishing to ensure that the program has a long-term viability, that it endures, has dedicated funding, that its existence and growth is ensured. So it was established by a decision of the ACO Board of Directors, and this is important for any endowment campaign to be compelling and to go ahead. The board has to decide to establish such a campaign and such a fund. And again, the purpose was in anticipation of the centennial, to celebrate the centennial, to ensure long-term stability and viability for the program by providing dedicated funding. I have to say that it was a most rewarding experience. The fundraising has done very, very well. And that's probably because of the, well, not probably, but in my opinion, the enthusiasm of our membership and branches. The National Shakespeare Competition is a beloved program. The majority of our branches participate in it. It's both an educational and a creative program that involves young people. So there is a lot of goodwill among our branches and members in supporting it and participating. And that's why the fundraising was successful. The goal was $1 million in the bank. The impact would be significant. At the normal draw rate between 5 and 7% a year, it would yield between $50,000 and $75,000 a year. This does not cover all the expenses for the competition, but it covers the core expenses. And these are those out the door expenses that make the competition possible and unique and exciting. These are the prizes, the travel for the competitors. These are the event fees, the educational activities. And we're talking about a competition in person. We're moving, as Betty explained, with a hybrid competition next year. Hopefully the year after will be all in person. But that's the goal. To bring back the excitement of face-to-face performance on a stage in front of an audience with a live applause of our kids. That's one part, that's one goal of the endowment. And then to give us some funding, to give us the wherewithal to explore new opportunities, to test new programmatic initiatives, such as the writing competition that Betty talked about. And I'm pleased to announce that we are nearly there. We are about $57,000 to the goal. This is very exciting, and being so close gives us the opportunity to reach our goal, hopefully by January. And with the next slide, I'll talk, first of all, I want to thank all the branches that contributed so generously. These are the name, and of course, individuals. We got some funding from bequests, but these are the branches who really generously contributed to the Shakespeare competition. And many of them actually contributed to the ranch competition as well, being so fair and splitting the goodwill among the two programs. So our big fundraising push for the Shakespeare competition will be our Centennial Gala. And Karen spoke about it at the meeting earlier today in more detail. But again, it's on January 12th at the Cosmopolitan Club. We'll host the Princess Royal. She promised to come last year. She couldn't because of COVID. She delivered her address in person, but this time she'll make it up for us. I'm praying, I'm confident, I'm moving ahead with the belief that she's coming on January 12th. We have her team coming in November for reconnaissance, for the recce, as they say, to make sure that everything is at the royal standards. Now, at the gala, in the presence of the Princess Royal, we will unveil the ESU National Shakespeare Competition Paul Beresford Hill Trophy. Some of you have heard of it. It is a beautiful, there is a picture of it. It's a beautiful silver cup. We acquired it through the good offices of our board member, Dr. Robin Sinclair, who's expert in all matters beautiful. And also with the help of several of our board members, we acquired this item. So it will be unveiled as the Paul Beresford Hill Trophy, named after our chairman for his contributions for founding the competition and for advancing it throughout his career at the ESU. And it will be on the occasion of his stepping down as youth chair. So this will be a major fundraising opportunity. We will be inviting people to buy tables and support the gala, but also to support the trophy and that programmatic element of the gala. We hope will create excitement and will reassure people that we focused on the Shakespeare competition needs on the forefront of our minds. Again, the gala will feature in-person event at the Cosmopolitan Club, but it also be broadcast virtually. So individual people, members who cannot come to New York City, to the gala itself, they can still log in, they can still register, they can still donate and support the gala and the Shakespeare competition by making a gift in honor of Dr. Paul Beresford Hill. We'll also invite branches to get together for a dinner and log in as a branch and join as a branch, as a table bought by a branch. That's also possible. We'll work with branches who would like to do that so that they can pre-record a message, and their messages will be part of the program together with us. I believe Quinn mentioned performances, his performance piano, but also performance by a Shakespeare winner and some testimonials from our programs. So this is our next, sorry. Yes, Julia.
No, I'm sorry, we are hitting the end of our time.
I'm sorry, but it's
That's
so
quite
exciting.
all right. This is an important piece and something that people need to hear about. There is some material on the website, and there actually is a form if you'd like to register for the event.
Right.
I would like to thank Rosanna for her guidance of this project, and of course the enthusiasm of Betty Trevino Roth is enchanting. And I think it's what's moving along and expanding something that's really a signature program for the ESU, and one that everybody really knows about more so than a lot of the others. So yes, someone said, Irene, thank you, bravo. Betty, I agree with you. That's
Thank you.
well said, Irene. We are in about 8 minutes. We're going to go into our final workshop session. So if you'd like to take a quick chance to get a little libation, whether it be a cup of coffee or something else, we'll be back at 4 o'clock for our last session. It's going to be on local programming. And thank you, Betty and Rosanna, for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And can I just make one comment? I'm sorry, my name is incorrect. That's my husband's name. This is Karen. But I just wanted to remind everybody that at 5:30 today, there will be a special announcement on the new board leadership right before the presentation on President Eisenhower and the ending of the conference. So please be in attendance at 5:30 for a new announcement on the ESU leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
So yes, everyone can stay here. Our session will begin at 4 p.m. No need to leave the room. But yes, we'll be beginning at 4 p.m. with the programming on branch local program.
Um,
Okay, folks, it's 4 o'clock. If you would all unmute yourself, and then by way of a little bit of introduction, I'll give you an idea of what we're going to do in this session. This is going to be a sharing showcase. We've heard a lot about the national programs. We've heard some discussion about strategies for membership, renewal, retention, and reclamation. But this one is going to be about things that you're doing, that we are doing in our branches that appeal to our membership in terms of programming. And I'd like to throw 2 items out before we start, and then we're going to let everybody else participate in this conversation. About a week and a half ago, I went over to Richmond, which is about 2 hours from here, and they were doing a tree planting. And that has been a long-serving landmark for monarchs. It's not a new tradition, but Her Majesty the Queen has given this a whole new meaning, launching the unique Queen's Green Canopy Initiative for this October, which she announced last year with Prince Charles. And what they're doing is creating a global network of forest conservation projects. And it's also to mark the incredible, momentous anniversary of the Queen's service of 70, it's going to be 70 years on the throne, while at the same time conserving indigenous forests for future generations. So what they did was they planted a tree at an historic site in Richmond. and then they had an absolutely lovely tea party at the end in the Virginia House, which was actually a manor house in Warwickshire that was scheduled for demolition and was moved to Richmond in 1925. So I throw this one out because it was an interesting, I hadn't heard anybody else doing it, but it's planting a tree. In Virginia, they planted obviously a dogwood tree, which is our state flower. And we too can do this as an interesting thing in connection with our observance of Her Majesty's long reign. So that's the first one I throw out. The second one, on another focus completely, the Lexington branch this year decided to hold a cocktail party. Yeah. It was the first in person. Well, they did a garden party last spring, but they asked members to bring prospective members to a cocktail party. There was mostly socializing in a beautiful home in Lexington. And then the acting president got up and spoke about the English-speaking union. We're still waiting to see how it shakes out in terms of getting new members for the organization. And so, the fact that we're still talking about membership as this pandemic proceeds, let's hope it doesn't proceed, but is currently underway. And so what I'd like at this opportunity is for you all to talk about events and activities that you've already scheduled, and those that you're thinking about for the coming year. And if you have, we'll hold off until education initiatives in about, well, this one will go until 4:50. And we also have Laura Van de Heide, who's the marketing and communications manager for National, and she has graciously offered to present her thoughts about effective use of social media. So we want to allow enough time to do that. So if you'd all unmute yourself so that, and just kind of raise your hand or take turns in speaking. This is a group sharing about those activities that you have already planned for this year that you think will be wonderful, or those that you're still thinking about. I'm going to take notes so that we can share these ideas back with the regional representatives, and they can get back to you all. Kate, I saw a hand.
Well, I didn't really have my hand up, but I'll go ahead and say what we just did. Yesterday, while you all were meeting here, we had our scholars. We had our annual meeting, and then we have our scholars presentation from when they had gone to study at Edinburgh. So we were the branch that had 2 of those scholars. They talked about 3 total scholars, and we had 2 of them. And these kids quarantined. I mean, God love them. They did a wonderful presentation. So we always invite our scholars to come back and talk about their experience, talk about what, to see all those young faces of the people enjoying Edinburgh. And, when they finally got out of quarantine, they talked about how the quarantining worked, and we were very engaged. And we had about 35 members. We were supposed to have 45, but, I think some probably, willied out at the last minute because it is a big change to be back in person. And we get that. We'll also have a live Christmas party. We have a country club here that's quite beautiful and old. So we'll have that Christmas party. We're calling it a royal celebration. And we'll be trying to we have a performer going to do a one-man show. He's an equity actor here that's outstanding, very funny. We don't know what he's going to do yet. We'll talk to him. And then we're trying to keep that royal theme going as well for that event. That will be in person, because my board of directors, and I have a really strong board of directors, they, and of all ages, and they said, we got to get back in person. We just have to do it. And, the members came in, some of them were wearing masks. By the end, everybody had been vaccinated that was there. They weren't wearing masks. They enjoyed being together. They celebrated seeing each other in person. And I have mostly the same demographic that most of you looking at this screen have got right now. So I have quite a few who we call them senior statesmen. I have a number of very young ones, because my scholars are university students and they come back. And they bring their other young friends with them to see their presentations, and people get really excited about what the English Speaking Union offers with the scholarship program. So I highly recommend that, you do something in person. It's not as scary as you think. We had to have a box lunch, which we've never had a box lunch in all the years that we've done things with the English Speaking Union, but you're not allowed to touch anyone else's food. So, okay, I suffered the box lunch and I suffered the bottled water, even though that's not how we usually do it. We usually have an urn with fancy tea and, we wear our hats, etc. But in this day and age, we just were being flexible. And that's what I think everybody has to do to get back live. Be flexible. So don't be afraid. That's all I want to say.
That's great. Thank you, Kate. Who else is going to share now? Don't be shy.
We're getting back to it in New Orleans. We're looking forward. Initially, we wanted to have a welcome back cocktail party in September. And then with things going on in New Orleans, we thought, okay, well, maybe October. And then everybody got in this mode about, okay, it's time to get your booster. So we just canceled that and went on to Christmas tea. So Christmas tea, we're going to hold at a hotel this year rather than individual residence. But the hotel is the Windsor Court Hotel. So if you've ever been to New Orleans, you're familiar with that. And it's Anglophilic decor. And they really go all out for Christmas. So we thought, well, if any hotel can have a proper Christmas tea for us, it's the Windsor Court. And they do serve proper English tea all year round in the afternoon. So we're going to get in one of their ballrooms upstairs and have it on a bigger scale. And that's going to be a lot of fun for an in-person for the first time for our members. And we're encouraging them to bring guests. We just need an RSVP headcount for this. Then going into the new year, we're going to schedule a theater night. And if you have some of these AMC theaters, et cetera, are broken down into smaller theater units, like boutique theaters. We've done that before with Murder on the Orient Express to a great successful party. This time we're going to have it at a private apartment building that has a 50-seat private theater room. So again, I'm sure those exist in many cities where you are, private theater rooms in an apartment building or a residential community, as well as a commercial. And it's a nice, have a little cocktail party, enjoy the movie, have someone do an introduction about what the movie's all about. Ours will be Gilbert and Sullivan in the Topsy-Turvy movie. And we have one of our board members who's a real knowledgeable person about Gilbert and Sullivan. So he's going to be doing the intro. So that's a fun thing. And then I would remind people who, particularly in our region, Region 7, Josh confirmed that the Queen 6 will be in Dallas on February 20th at 5 p.m. And so I'm encouraging the branches in Region 7 to perhaps think about a trip to Dallas. It can be a day trip, an overnight trip. Southwest hasn't been getting good press lately, but usually it's a very reliable and inexpensive air carrier in the region. And to partner up with the Dallas branch and make an event out of it on February 20th, a joint cocktail party before, maybe a dinner party afterwards. The Queen 6 maybe in attendance after the fact. Of course, the competition with our branch in February is Mardi Gras at that precise time with parades and balls. But I think my point is destination events like that can happen in every region. Build something around it, whether it's a special museum exhibit that's going on, this or that. So those are on the schedule. And then of course, Queen's birthday brunch, we're looking forward to that later on in June. And in between, we're going to fill in hopefully with some local speakers. We have a new program chair and we're excited to see who he's connected with and what he can add to our agenda.
Great, thank you. Barbara?
Well, we've already started back. The very first meeting we had, they had to be masked, and we separated them, socially distanced them, and we did serve food, but the food was served with tongs, and only we had a group of people, members, that were masked and gloves on and the whole 9 yards. And it went very well. We had a good turnout. And I also did that one as a hybrid. The very first one is a hybrid. So we had people on Zoom, but then we also did it in person. We have, and we're continuing, we've got plans for the rest of the year. Two people that I think that might be interesting is we have a Dr. Wolf Bouchard, who is head of the British Galleries at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. He's coming to us in November. And we have found that by contacting some of these museums and art galleries, you can find some really excellent speakers. So we're very blessed in our branch because we have 2 talent scouts that sit on our program committee, and they are so fabulous at reaching out and doing all this research. They come back to the committee and they have some wonderful names with it for us. So those are I have 2 of them out of the 6 people that are on our committee, but everybody does help out. We have another person that's coming in March, and this might be interesting to some of the people who aren't too far away from us in Winter Park. Carly Collier is coming from the Royal Collection Trust, and she's going to be speaking on Victoria and Albert as art collectors. So I don't know if anybody who's in the state of Florida who might be interested at Naples or Palm Beach, or maybe somebody close like Atlanta might be interested in plugging in. Apparently she's never been to the United States, so I think she'd be very open to maybe traveling to some other branches too. So anyhow, we do have one more, Hamilton. You know how popular Hamilton is. Well, we have a professor who has written a book called The Hamilton Affair, and she's coming up to us at the very last meeting in May. And so this is how we've gotten online and just looked at, if you have a special topic you're interested in, getting online, looking for speakers about that topic sometimes can be very helpful. And we have found that so many of them also have, you can watch them on YouTube. So you can kind of get a feel, and we've done that. In fact, everybody was assigned, myself included, at our last meeting, that we were going to look at some names that have been thrown out to us and to see, how they present themselves on YouTube. So that's enough from me. Thank you, though.
That's great. Thank you. Who's next? Chad, hi.
Hi, yes. We're going to be doing a program where we are partnering with another organization. And I think that this is an opportunity that a lot of branches could really get involved with in terms of partnerships. To start out with explaining this particular event, we have a longtime Kansas City ESU member, Ben Martin, who back in 2016, he and his wife took a cruise to Cuba. That was back in the days when Cuba was open to tourists, which it's not now, but and they toured 3 ports of call: Santiago, Cienfuegos, and Havana. After that cruise, he came back and put together a PowerPoint presentation of some of the photos that he took of the trip. And a part of the PowerPoint included a history of of Cuba, going back to the roots of Cuba from the Spanish War and so on. And a lot of people don't really know the background on how Cuba began. But anyway, I thought maybe an idea would be to take Ben's presentation that he's used actually with other organizations and co-sponsor it with another organization here in Kansas City called the International Relations Council, which is a very large local organization. They have like 300 or 400 members, and they have speakers from political speakers, diplomats, heads of state, pretty high level speakers and programs. And particularly since this relates to an international type topic with Cuba, we thought they would be interested, and they were very interested in it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to find a local Cuban national, a scholar on Cuba here in Kansas City. This will be a live Zoom presentation, and it will incorporate two panelists, both Ben Martin and this Cuban national scholar, talking about Cuba. As you know, if you've been looking in what's been happening lately, Cuba's population has really been upended with protests and so on. So it's a very topical kind of presentation. So anyway, that's what we're doing. We've got a tentative date of December the 7th that works for everyone. It's going to be, again, online, and of course, everyone is welcome. So you all are going to be welcome to attend as a guest. It'll be a free program. So I think working with partners is something that can be very rewarding as well. There's an Evelyn Wrench lecture coming up next spring. Sir Christopher Hum, who is the British ambassador, former British ambassador to China, and we have him scheduled tentatively, if it all works out with the travel, coming to Kansas City, hopefully sometime in March. And we are partnering again with the International Relations Council. That will be an in-person program. It will be a fundraiser. We were planning to do this last May, but May of last year, but that was canceled because of COVID. So we fully expect that we're going to have 150 to 200 people at this co-sponsored event with the International Relations Council for the Evelyn Wrench program coming up.
And what are you raising money for?
Well, it'll be joint funds for both organizations, and just for the ESU side to help with our general, our general funding, general funds.
Okay, good. Thank you. Who's next? Linda.
Hi, Julia.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, I'm Region 1 representative from the Boston branch, and I would just like to tell you about a couple of programs that we will be having in the future, but also about one that we've just had, which was the debate. And I understand it's the first debate of its kind in the nation that we organized along with the Athenaeum of Boston, which was on the Elgin marbles controversy and the Parthenon marbles. We had Michael Dukakis, our former governor, who is of Greek background, and we had a very prominent Boston attorney, Joe Hearn, who represented the British. And they also had panelists from academia, some very knowledgeable persons from art departments and history and English, whatnot. So there were about 7 of them all together. And it was a wonderful presentation. We had about 130 in the audience, which we did live. And then we had, I understand, about 200 people who were probably a lot of them from across the country that the Athenaeum would have interested in the program. But as it turned out, after some wonderful presentations, we took a kind of a straw ballot voice vote, and the Greeks won. So they would like to, those people in the audience would like to see the marbles go back, obviously, to that brand new museum that apparently is just below the Parthenon in Greece. So anyway, that was just a marvelous presentation. We've worked on it for probably 2 years. We had to delay it because of COVID. But I go along with Jeff. And Jeff, I know you had a meeting this summer with our president, Paul Bogosian. Paul is a dynamic person, really, to have at the head of the Boston organization. He provides terrific leadership qualities. And it was, I think, due to his initiative and whatnot, working with the Athenaeum. I am 100% for us doing as many programs of that type with other organizations. We found that has worked successfully for us in the last 3 or more years. And we have gotten some members from other organizations, which has been great. And we're going to just continue along those lines whenever we can with the program. On the 21st of November, we will have a celebration of the 101st anniversary of the English Speaking Union. We had hoped to do it last year, but we were unable, obviously, again, because of the COVID situation. But this year we're going live at the Country Club in Brookline, a positively beautiful venue that we've used now for different events that we've held. And we have the American Songbook scheduled for that November meeting. We're going to have a pianist and some singers playing music of the 30s, 40s, 50s, I guess. I'm not that involved other than with the communication side, getting out the invitations and whatnot. But we're hoping that will be a lively and interesting event for our members. In December, we'll have our annual Christmas party at the Chilton Club, which is always a big draw for us. And we're looking forward to that again, live, if that's at all, possible, unless these venues tell us differently, and we're crossing our fingers they won't. And then Shakespeare, of course, coming up the first couple of Saturdays in February. We look forward to that. We're going again live back, we hope, to the Campus Center Theater at Mount Ida College, which is right here in the area. And we're also going to give schools an option of doing the Zoom platform. So we'll have students hopefully at Mount Ida, and we'll also be doing Zoom. We feel that this can open up possibilities for more students participating outside the Boston area. And we're looking, hopefully, Paul's quite optimistic that we can get 30 or more students, schools sending students by both Zoom and live presentation. And in the month of March and May, we're hoping to have authors, presentations. We're putting that together at a very elementary level right now. And then in June, of course, our annual garden party presentation back at the country club in Brookline, which is always a wonderful get together. So we've got a lot of things planned live, and I'm just knocking on wood that all of these are going to come off. We're looking forward to a very active and exciting year ahead. So I think that does it for me.
Thanks, Linda.
You're welcome.
I may come back to some of you and send you back what you articulated, so that I'm sure that the details are correct and that we can share. David Grissett made an interesting comment a few moments ago about the fact that we need to do a job of sharing when we're doing Zoom meetings that are available to other branches. I thank him for that
Absolutely.
suggestion, and we need to figure out how that will work. But it's notification. The regional reps for a number of years, well, one was regional chairs. We tried to get all of the programs that were being held by branches across the country and create an ongoing list, particularly so that if people wanted either to contact the branch and say, tell me more about this speaker, how do I access information about him or her? And also now it would be, if this is a Zoom presentation, how we can tap into it. And this is the year we're hoping to make that one work. And so that's really important. And I thank you, David, for making that comment. So that's on my notepad to pursue. Barbara?
One of the other things that we did as the program committee, we went online and we looked at all the different branches all around the country, and we divvied this up among the program committee and looked to see what programs others were doing. And then we did make contact with some of the branches to find out, you know, if they found the speaker to be good and so on and so forth. So I think it's probably quite crucial to keep each one of our branches website up to date. I know we already have all of our things for Central Florida already listed on our website, but I think that's helpful. And that's a great resource for all of us.
Yes, that is important. It's one, make sure your website's up to date. And the other thing that I'd like to just offer is, if you have not updated your list of officers and committee chairs with either national or your regional rep, please do that, because it means sometimes we're trying to communicate with people who actually are not in those positions. So I'm getting, I sent that out to all of the people in Region 4, and I'm starting to get those back. Now in November, I will have been invited to another branch in Region 4. So by mid-November, I will, this year already, I've been to 5 of the 10 branches in that region. And I'm a great one for in-person things, and I love going to branch meetings and seeing how branches operate. But it is terribly important that we keep our information up to date. So thank you, Barbara, for that notion. And also please make sure that Josh or your regional rep gets you, or both, get your officers and committee chairs up to date, so that they can that they're correctly communicating with people who are actually in those positions. Because I know that there've been a lot of changes of people in branches. So I offer that piece of wisdom, and please do those two things, because I think that it's critical to our communicating with each other. And now we just have to figure out how to get information about those Zoom meetings. With having been to Cuba twice, Jeff, once, and I stayed with the British ambassador in Havana in the late 70s, who was a family friend. And I went again in 2010. So I would love to come to your Zoom meeting, because Cuba is something that has long been of interest. I also worked in a school, I was an administrator in a school district that had a large Cuban population. of all different kinds. You know,
Yes.
ones who are anti-Batista, anti-Castro, and Mariel Boatlift children. So please put me on your list.
Well, definitely, yes.
Thank you. I would like to come.
Would there be some way that we could put it on the national website that people, you know, if we have if some branch has a Zoom meeting that they think would be open or interesting to other members or other branches?
Well, that's one thing I'm going to talk to Josh about, because that's really important to communicate that a place where people can go to see what, you know, what people are doing in one easy place without going to everybody's
Absolutely.
website, which
Yes.
hopefully is up to date. But the other thing that people have suggested, which is, and I think Josh is on this, that we need to find a way to enable people to communicate, and kind of so you know, people who are interested in regional activities. And so we'll go back to Josh, and I mean, he's been an absolute treasure for the regional representatives and everybody else in the organization. So I hope he's hearing that.
You know, with regard to expanding the sharing of programs and ideas, I think that, and I mentioned this Friday when the two chairmen were talking at the opening session, that I think that we should at some point in the future somehow expand this sharing idea internationally, because there are a lot of branches throughout the world, and maybe due to you know, time zone limitations, maybe they can't always be live, but maybe they could be, a Zoom meeting could be recorded. But as an example, many of these international ESU branches have Facebook pages, and I try to become friends with as many of these Facebook pages as I can. And the Hong Kong, the ESU Hong Kong branch, they have a monthly program where they do a monthly listing of plays. They actually read a play, and it might be an abbreviated version, but and then they have a discussion about it afterwards. And I've actually gone to their Facebook page and listened to some of these plays that they've done, you know, like A Streetcar Named Desire and so on. And it's very interesting. And we could take those ideas and use them ourselves, I think.
Great idea.
The one thing that we would need, I'm just making a note that's about a library of branch Zoom meetings. It's really important that if you're going to be recording someone who is speaking, that you have gotten permission, preferably in writing. I said this the other day, that grants you the permission to record the program, and that they would not mind if other people who from other branches are also in attendance. So as you're doing these programs, think about that, so that we don't run into any violation of, you know, some people don't want to be recorded. So please check into that, because I think it's a great idea to have a larger pool of programs. We've been very fortunate with the happy hours that have done a diversity of programming. I have been to every one of them, even if I have to adjust my calendar when that comes out, because they've been so interesting, and for the most part, well done. And I look forward to what's scheduled ahead. So I think that I'm not yet zoomed out. I'm thinking about it, but I'm not yet zoomed out. But I think that if we could participate in some of the Zoom programs in other branches, and we need to collect that information. So when you get an email saying, gee, would you do that? we will need to, it's really telling us ahead of time, and we'll have to figure out how to come up with an accessible document on the, preferably on the national website, that we can all go in and see what's going on next month or 2 months from now or whatever.
Julia,
Or-
may I interject?
Yes, please do, Laura. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm good, thanks. This has been a really great conversation, and there's just so many fantastic points. I just quickly want to jump in on the just sort of collective calendar idea, and just say that a leaf out of what Jeff was talking about, actually, I feel like the quickest way for us to address catching up with each other's events is actually all of us having branch Facebook pages, because Facebook already really allows for you to follow and see what your followers are doing. So for example, Jeff in Kansas City running their Facebook page and befriending the Hong Kong branch, they immediately already know exactly what's going on and can connect with each other's resources. So if all of the branches were just simply adding Facebook, not only would it be helpful between branches to share information, but as a marketing tool specifically to get new members, I think that it would do a lot of work. Having an online presence is essential, especially if someone is looking into the ESU, your branch in Seattle. I guarantee you the first thing that they're going to do, especially if they're, you know, of working age, if they're a teacher, they're going to get on Google and they're going to look for a way that they can engage with a presence like a Facebook or an Instagram. So I think that there's already a lot of capacity, and I understand what you're saying about the website. I think that that's the way that we could build out a website capacity, a national website capacity to do that is definitely something we could be in conversation about, since we are currently building a new website. But the most immediate way to do this is actually one that would be useful triple-fold, which is just getting every branch on social media to the best of our ability.
Now, Laura was supposed to be talking to us about our social media presence. So this is an opportune time for you to continue with those things that you'd like to say.
Yeah, I mean, so really with the social media presence, I want to start with some of the things that I've noticed people bring up during the conference in general, which is the physical media. So I saw people showing off pamphlets, which is fantastic, but the pamphlets actually didn't have the updated branding. So we need to make sure that, and that is something that you reach out to me for. So if you want the updated branding, if you want new photos on your brochures, if you want business cards, all of that stuff, you have to reach out to me, and we'll make sure that we're getting nicely branded, consistent looking physical media materials. And then likewise, the distribution of that, I think, is something that should be extremely thoughtful. I'm sure that people have been doing this for years, far longer than I have, with trying to get people involved in the ESU. But I would just be extremely thoughtful about connecting with teachers. Again, what I think it was Barbara and Jeff, as well as Linda mentioned, having those physical materials when you are partnering in person with other organizations is essential. You know, whether that means that the branch has chipped in to just purchase a banner. I know that these things kind of sound cheesy, but we really want to make sure that people understand what our physical branch looks like. And then of course that falls into place with being visibly present online. It is essential that people are able to look up your branch and not find an out-of-date ESU branch website. You know, we really want to make sure that people, when they come across our branch websites, they see that we are actively doing things. And the way to do that is to make sure that you have someone at your branch who is in charge of sending those website updates to me, so I can post those. And so people can really be able to search and see what your branch is doing on a monthly basis. And then likewise, that falls in line with being present on social media. And Facebook in particular is a really great way to not only create events before they happen, and share them with people. But also it's a great way to connect via group with particular constituents, potential constituents of interest. So for example, I guarantee you, if you search Kansas City teachers on Facebook, 1 million groups will populate, and you will be able to join those groups as an organization and say, hey, I'm an education group. We have resources for teachers. If you're interested, message me. Or you can, there's just so many different ways that you can connect with individuals through Facebook groups. That could just be a really, really fantastic way of becoming more visible to people who are your neighbors, without actually having to stand on a street corner or outside of a grocery store handing out pamphlets or whatever. But yeah, those are just some of my 2 cents. I would also just say, as mentioned, the partnership with other local organizations is such a great place to start, especially branches that are running Shakespeare, for example. There are Shakespeare festivals in every single city and town in this country, and working with them, finding a way to work with them is great. Museums, as was mentioned by Barbara, I think is absolutely brilliant, because then you can build relationships with the curators. The more notable names come up, the easier it'll be for you to, for example, phone the press. So if you're having a really beautiful garden party, have you considered calling the press? Is that something that you're interested in doing? That might be good to call your local newspaper or call your local television station. I know it's, it can be a bit strange, but it is actually a really great way just to be in the news. And then it actually makes the ESU higher up in our search engines. So it helps us nationally as well bolster our reputation. Every single time the English speaking union goes out as a press release, goes out as a news story. But it really means that we have to have the foresight to say, this is a really cool lecture with some really cool people. I'm going to get a roster of local news organizations and call them and tell them and see if they want to cover it. But yeah, so those are just some of my thoughts. They are obviously very connected on what you guys are already talking about. But yeah, I'm always glad to work with people individually. So you know where to find me.
I'd like to just maybe kind of reiterate the importance of Facebook. If a branch does not have an ESU Facebook page, they're very easy to start up. And Laura can help you with that. I mean, it takes no time at all, but it has to be, you have to do it. There's, on the business side, there's a for-profit and there's a not-for-profit side of Facebook for businesses. And so you want to be sure that you're not, the nonprofit is the way to go. And it's, once you get that up and running, you can post your local branch events. You can post the happy hour programs on there. You can post all kinds of things. If you go to the Kansas City Facebook page, you'll see how we post things all the time. And sometimes, and it's easy to share too. The national ESU Facebook page, sometimes I just take one of their postings and share it on my Facebook, my Kansas City Facebook page. So it's really easy to do. And Laura, you can maybe talk about that too, how easy that is.
Well, I mean, again, that's why I'm saying I think that it feels like an immediate fix for doing what we're sort of thinking as far as keeping tabs on what everyone is doing. Because the way that Facebook is actually laid out is that you get a news feed of all of the people that you're following and what they're posting. So if we all have Facebooks for each branch and we're all connected and we follow each other, you'll actually see right there what it is that everyone is doing, and you'll be able to, click on the link and do whatever. But it does require, some technical know-how of how to navigate these social networks. Again, I'm very glad to if we feel like it would be fruitful that I do a presentation one day, I'm
Wonderful.
glad to organize that with everyone. I think we should definitely
would be good.
prioritize it if that's something people are interested in.
Yes.
And then we can just get people set up and connected to one another in a way that just is a little bit more seamless.
Expect a phone call
Yeah.
or an email.
My phone is open. Go ahead. Yeah.
Barbara?
We did do, I learned, I had a very steep learning curve this past year because I even learned how to make a YouTube for Central Florida branch. And what we did is we took all the programs that we had recorded and did on Zoom, and I turned them into a YouTube. And then we had a Brett Carrier, who is our communications person, saw and put them all on. So when you go to the Central Florida branch, there's a list of all of our programs and a list of all the happy hour programs too, that people can just click on and view at any time they want to. So Jeff, it's probably very similar to what some of the things that you've been doing too.
Yes.
And
I'd like to just mention real fast as well that, so having someone like Brett, so I know Brett by name and really appreciate the communications with her. But having a person in your branch that's dedicated to communications and dedicated to forging a relationship with me in any way that's beneficial, because as basically Brett will reach out to me and say, I need these things, and we can work with each other. And it's very streamlined. So I think it's important that the branches prioritize having a person in charge of communications, and not having it be too all over the place. You don't want multiple people trying to work on the same thing. I think it would just be much better to really prioritize having one person spearhead that.
thank God for her. I've been very blessed.
Just quickly to answer David's question. No, David, I'm not saying that National has an individual branch page for each. I'm saying it would be the responsibility of each branch, as you have with your New Orleans branch, and as Jeff has with the Kansas City branch, each page running and maintaining their own Facebook page that would then be connected with one another, and as well as be connected with ESU National.
Okay.
Does that clarify?
I think so. We have about a minute left. Is there anything else that anyone would like to bring before this group that we haven't discussed? Either questions or things that you'd like to have done, or whatever is in your... John, you look like you're going to say something.
Who, me?
Yes, you had that expression on your face like...
Oh, well, I was just going to say, for our first meeting this year, we had a trivia contest at a local bar and restaurant. We had a social hour first with free hors d'oeuvres. Then we broke down and they could order dinner if they wanted. And we had great trivia questions. And I think the reason I enjoyed it so much was my team won. And I have to give lots of credit to my teammates, but I did know the year the Magna Carta was signed. So I did my part, I feel like. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out as a good idea. We also got several new members from the trivia contest.
Would you tell us your branch, please, John?
Oh, yes. We're the Colonial North Carolina branch.
Can I throw in one last just little thing I wanted to bring up? In general, I think that we should be keeping better track as branches of the alumni in our area that have gone through our program. So any way that we can engage our program alumni and connect them together in a way that feels very ESU centric. As someone who has received a scholarship before, I've gotten a Fulbright fellowship, and Fulbright is extremely good at making people feel like they have a lifelong cohort. And I would say that ESU scholarships are very important, and being able to foster that sense of lifelong community that a lot of these prominent scholarships do is really key. So any way that as a branch you can bring together anyone in the community over the past, over the entire lifespan of the program, alumni who have come through that program, even if it's just for trivia at a bar for the alumni of the Shakespeare program. It's just something fun, or however you want to do it, but just making sure that those people know how to contact you, and that the ESU feels like a place that can be a resource for them, and just sort of cornerstone to their career development, I guess.
Thank you. That's good wisdom. Well, our time is up, and I'd like to thank you all for being here and for your ideas. And I've gotten a lot of ideas. I hope that you have too, and I hope you have a great night. And don't forget, at 5:30 there's a special announcement before the final program. So we'll see you in about 35 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.